Right, that gives us all of the actual variables that we need now to lay out our cards. So let's start laying them out. Click on the green arrow in this on start of layout event, and then right click and choose add sub-event. And the sub-event we're going to add is a system sub-event, and we want to repeat G number cards times. What we want to do is we want to keep track of the current card number, and so in order to do that we actually need a variable to store that current card number. Since we're only going to be using it in this little piece of the event sheet, we'll create it as a local variable. So add a local variable and call it let's call it current Tableau card. And we're using Tableau card to distinguish it from another variable, another current card variable we'll be using later. And the initial value is, I'm going to set it to -1. And that's because the first thing I'm going to do is increment it, so that at the top of my loop I add 1 to it, and that takes it to our first card, which is card 0. While we're at it, we need another local variable. And this one will be the current column. And we'll also make that -1 to start with. And we need one more, and that will be current row, and also -1 to start with. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do then, as I said, was we're going to set the value, or add to this local variable current Tableau card, and we're going to add 1 to it. So it was -1, now it's going to be 0, and that is our first card. Now the next thing that we need to do is set the column number for this card. And we're going to use a little tricky math here. We're going to use something called modulus, which really just is take the remainder and do a little math with the remainder of a division operation. So we're going to set the value of current column equal to current Tableau card, which is the value we just set right above that. That's the modulus operator, and it's going to be the number. We're going to divide it by the number of columns. So the result of this is, if there are 6 columns and we start from 0, then the result is going to be 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5. That's going to be the answer all the time. And every time we add 1 to the Tableau, to the card number, it's going to move the column up 1. And then when we get to the last column, the next time we add 1, it's going to go back to 0. So it's kind of a tricky way, but a nifty way to increment your columns. Okay, the next thing we want to do is add another sub-event. So right-click on this little green circular arrow, which means there's a loop. Right-click and add a sub-event. And the condition we're interested in is if the local variable current column number So we want to compare two values. That'll be fine. Or we can compare variables too. Either one will work. If the current column is equal to 0. So if we've gone all the way across the column and now we're come back and the column is 0, we want to add 1 to our row. So if that happens, we're going to add to our current row. And we're adding 1 to it. All right, now that we know the column number and the row number where we're going to create our card, we can go ahead and create it. So again, right-click on this green arrow, and then from the context menu, choose Add a blank sub-event. And that is because we want this sub-event to happen all the time, regardless. There's no condition just to prevent it from happening. We want it to happen anytime. Right after we've executed this last condition where we added to the current row, then we want to go straight into doing this condition. All right, the action that we're going to perform is a system action to create an object, and the object we'll create as a card. We'll create it on layer 0. That's our only layer. And we've got a nice long expression again. We're gonna create it. We're gonna move over past the left margin, and then we're gonna multiply the current column times the card width plus the space between the cards, and that'll give us, add that all together, and that'll give us the location where we want to, the X location for creating the card. And then we want to do something very similar. Choosing the Y value. Oh, I got an extra. Okay, so that creates our card. Now we want to add another action to our, and this is going to be a card action. We want to set the size of our card to G card height, or width, times G card height. And we have to do one more thing. We have to set the face frame for that card, and that is going to be go back to card, and we're going to set an instance variable, set the value, and it is going to be to the current Tableau card. All right, so let's go ahead and save it. Now you can see the original card laying back here behind the card. So let's fix that because it's kind of distracting. Go back to Construct, go to the Layout, and move this card off to the side. You don't want to delete it because, at least at the time this video was created, it's required to keep one instance of the card in the layout in order for things to work. All right, let's go ahead and try running it again. Now that's better. Now, if we click our cards, they lay out beautifully. That's perfect. That's exactly what we wanted. Each card is side by side, which makes it an incredibly easy game to win.